she was the most photographed woman in the world. Her face was on the nose cone of an atomic bomb. Men went to war carrying her image in their wallets. She was desire itself, manufactured, packaged, and sold by a man who understood one thing above all else: that a woman's power could be taken from her if you controlled her name, her hair, her accent, and her story. Hollywood did this to many women, but it did it to Rita Hayworth first. And it did it most completely. And what happened to her became a quiet warning that traveled through the decades. A warning that one young actress heard, carried, and never forgot. Columbia Pictures, Hollywood, California, 1941. Rita Hayworth is 23 years old. She has already been in the industry for 7 years, dancing since childhood, performing in Mexican cantinas with her father, dragged in front of cameras before she was old enough to understand what cameras meant. She has already changed her name. She has already changed her hair. She has already changed everything that made her who she was. But she does not know yet how much more will be taken. She does not know yet that the man sitting behind the desk at Columbia, Harry Cohn, 50 years old, 300 pounds of ambition and cruelty, has decided she belongs to him, not as a person, as a product. Harry Cohn runs Columbia Pictures the way a general runs an army, with absolute authority, with contempt for weakness, with the unshakable belief that he knows better than anyone else what America wants to see, what America wants to desire, what America wants to worship. He has built Columbia from nothing. He has turned it into a major studio through sheer force of will and a complete willingness to destroy anyone who gets in his way. Directors, producers, writers, actors, it does not matter. Columbia is his kingdom. Everyone inside it serves at his pleasure. He sees Rita and he sees potential, not her potential, his potential, the potential of what he can build with her face, her body, her talent. He sees the profit waiting inside her if only she is properly shaped, properly controlled, properly made. The first thing Harry Cohn does is erase Margarita. Her real name is Margarita Carmen Cansino, born in Brooklyn, 1918. Father Eduardo Cansino, Spanish dancer, brilliant, commanding. Mother Volga Haworth, American, Irish-English descent. Margarita grows up between two worlds. Spanish at home, English at school, dancing always. Her body trained from the time she can walk, ballet, flamenco, tap. Her father is her first teacher. Her father is also, according to multiple accounts, her first tormentor. A man who sexualized his daughter's performances before she understood what that meant, who presented her to club owners and film producers like a product for sale. Margarita learns early that her body is currency. She learns early that she does not control how it is spent. Harry Cohn looks at Margarita Cansino and sees the wrong name. Too ethnic, too Spanish, too foreign for the America he wants to sell her to. America in 1941 wants desire without complexity, glamour without origin, a goddess without a history, so the name goes. Margarita Carmen Cansino disappears. In her place, Rita Hayworth, her mother's maiden name, anglicized, simplified, made palatable. A new woman built from the bones of the old one. The hair is next. Margarita has dark hair, low hairline, Spanish features that read as too ethnic in Cohn's calculation. So Rita undergoes electrolysis, painful, hours-long sessions that move her hairline back 2 inches, They dye her hair. Not just color, transformation. Dark becomes auburn, becomes the famous Hayworth red, the hair that will appear on magazine covers, the hair that will make her famous, the hair that is not really hers, the hair that belongs to Columbia Pictures, to Harry Cohn, to the machine that is building her into something she never asked to become. She does not complain. She is 23 years old. She has been trained since childhood to perform on command, to smile when told to smile, to dance when told to dance, to become whatever the room requires of her. She is grateful, she tells herself. This is her chance. This is what she has been working toward. She does not see yet that the chance comes with a cost she has not agreed to pay. Gilda comes out in 1946. Rita Hayworth is 28 years old. The film changes everything. Glenn Ford, Charles Vider directing. A noir about desire and betrayal, and a woman who uses her sexuality as both weapon and shield. Rita plays Gilda, magnificent, dangerous, unknowable. The film is a sensation. The scene where she peels off a long black glove becomes one of the most famous moments in cinema history. Men in theaters across America watch Rita Hayworth and feel something overwhelming and complicated and completely beyond their control. She becomes, in that single film, an icon of desire so powerful that the United States military stencils her image onto an atomic bomb dropped near Bikini Atoll. She is named Gilda. The bomb is named after her character, her face attached to an instrument of total destruction. Rita is horrified. She says so publicly. She says it is the most terrible thing she has ever heard. That her image, her body, her face, her name, has been used without her consent for something so monstrous. She is ignored. The military does not apologize. Columbia does not protest on her behalf. Harry Cohn understands that the atomic bomb story only makes her more famous, only makes her more valuable to him. He does not see her horror. He sees the publicity. Here's the sentence she will say for the rest of her life. The sentence that gets quoted in every obituary. The sentence that tells you everything about what Hollywood did to her. Every man I have ever known has fallen in love with Gilda, and they wake up with me. Read that again. Let it sit. Every man fell in love with Gilda, the creation, the product, the woman Harry Cohn built from the bones of Margarita Cansino, and they woke up with Rita, the real woman. The woman with Spanish blood and a Brooklyn childhood and a father who sold her talent before she could protect it. The woman who underwent electrolysis to move her hairline. The woman who dyed her hair a color that was never hers. The woman who carries a name that was chosen for her by a man who saw her as inventory. The distance between Gilda and Rita. That is the distance between who she was allowed to be and who she actually was. That is the space Hollywood carved out of her. That is what Harry Cohn took. She tries to escape it, several times, different ways. Each time the studio pulls her back. She falls in love with Orson Welles. Brilliant, chaotic, ungovernable Orson Welles. The man who made Citizen Kane at 25. The man who understands storytelling the way other men understand breathing. They marry in 1943. They have a daughter, Rebecca. Orson sees Rita, not Gilda, not the product, the real woman. He casts her in The Lady from Shanghai, 1947, and does something radical. He cuts off her hair, dyes it blonde, puts her in simple clothes, tries to show the world that Rita Hayworth is more than what Columbia built, tries to separate the woman from the icon. Harry Cohn is furious. He calls Orson's decision the greatest act of sabotage in Hollywood history. He screams at previews. He believes Orson has destroyed the most valuable product in his studio. He is not entirely wrong about the film's commercial failure. He is entirely wrong about what it means. But Harry Cohn does not deal in meaning. He deals in profit, and Rita's profit in his calculation depends entirely on her being Gilda, forever, without variation, without growth, without the freedom to be anyone else. The marriage to Orson ends. The reasons are complicated and disputed and belong to both of them. But part of what ends it is this: Rita cannot be Gilda for Harry Cohn and also be herself for Orson Welles. She cannot hold both. The system does not allow it. She falls in love with Ali Khan, Prince Ali Khan, charming, wealthy, sophisticated, a man who moves through the world with the easy confidence of someone who has never been told what to do. They meet in 1948 on the French Riviera. He pursues her with the relentless intensity of someone who is used to getting everything he wants. She is dazzled. She believes, genuinely believes, that this is the escape. That becoming a princess, a real one, with a title and a palace and a life far away from Hollywood, will finally separate her from Gilda, will finally give her back to herself. She leaves Columbia, leaves Hollywood, leaves America. She and Ali Khan marry in 1949 in the south of France. They have a daughter, Yasmin. Rita is 31 years old, and she is, for a brief season, something she has never been allowed to be: free. It does not last. Ali Khan is not faithful, was never going to be faithful. The pursuit was the point for him. And once he has her, once she is his, the pursuit is over. He moves on to the next woman with the same relentless intensity he once directed at her. Rita watches this happen and understands something terrible. She has traded one prison for another. Columbia controlled her body. Ali Khan controls her life. Neither of them sees her. Both of them want Gilda. She returns to Hollywood in 1951, broke, with 2 daughters from 2 marriages, with no contract, with a career that Harry Cohn has spent 2 years undermining in the press, quietly, strategically, the way he does everything. He has told journalists she is difficult, unreliable, that she abandoned her career for a prince and does not deserve to come back. He has protected his product by punishing the woman who tried to leave it. She goes back to Columbia because she has no choice. She goes back to Harry Cohn because the industry he controls has made sure there is nowhere else to go. She signs a new contract. She makes more films. Pal Joey, Salome, Miss Sadie Thompson. She is still brilliant, still magnetic, still capable of work that stops a room. But something has changed. The fight is different now. The hunger is different. She has tried to escape 3 times. Through Orson, through Ali Khan, through walking away. And each time the system has brought her back smaller than she left. Harry Cohn dies in 1958. Rita is 40 years old. At his funeral, Red Skelton looks out at the massive crowd gathered to mourn the most feared man in Hollywood and says, "Give the people what they want." It becomes one of the most quoted lines in Hollywood history because Harry Cohn was genuinely hated, widely, deeply, by almost everyone who worked for him. And they came anyway, because in Hollywood, even death is a performance. Even grief is a career calculation. Rita does not perform grief. She does not go to the funeral. She does not release a statement. She simply continues to exist, which is perhaps the most radical thing she could do. To simply exist without performing the emotion she is expected to perform for a man who spent 20 years treating her as property. She keeps working through the 1960s. The roles get smaller. The studios get less interested. Hollywood has a short memory for what it used to worship. The women it builds into goddesses become inconvenient when they age, when they demand respect, when they insist on being treated as people rather than products. Rita insists, and Hollywood responds the way it always responds to women who insist, with silence, with fewer calls, with the slow erasure of someone who was once considered indispensable. What she never loses is the clarity of what was done to her. She sees it without illusion. She names it without softening it. In interviews through the 1960s and 1970s, she returns again and again to the same truth. They took her name. They took her hair. They built something from her body and her talent and her pain, and they put their name on it. And when she tried to reclaim herself, they punished her for it. And then she says the thing that travels, the thing that does not stay in the interview room, the thing that moves quietly through Hollywood for years, passed from woman to woman, landing finally in the mind of a young actress from London who is just beginning to understand what the system wants from her. I never had a chance to be myself in Hollywood. They kept me so busy being what they wanted. I never found out what I wanted. Audrey Hepburn reads this, or hears it, or both. The exact transmission is not documented. But what is documented, in interviews, in the accounts of people who knew her, in the choices she made throughout her career, is that Audrey Hepburn understood Rita Hayworth's story in a way that was personal, in a way that went beyond admiration, in a way that felt like warning, because Audrey knew what it felt like to have the system decide who you were going to be. She arrived in Hollywood in 1951 as a blank slate, or so Paramount believed. Young, thin, European, malleable. The studio had ideas about her image, her roles, her wardrobe, her public persona, strong ideas, the kind of ideas that come attached to contracts and obligations, and the quiet understanding that a young actress with no power and no leverage does what she is told. But Audrey had read the map. She had seen what happened to women who let the system build them completely, who gave over their name and their hair and their story in exchange for the career the studio promised. She had seen what Rita Hayworth's freedom cost. She had heard the sentence, "I never found out what I wanted." And she had decided, quietly but absolutely, that she would not end up saying those words. She negotiated, not loudly, not confrontationally, but with a steadiness that surprised the people around her. She kept Givenchy when Paramount wanted her in studio costumes. She took roles that interested her rather than roles that fit the studio's plan for her. She stepped away from Hollywood entirely when she decided family mattered more than career. In 1967, at the peak of her commercial value, she walked away. Not because she was pushed, because she chose. And when she came back, years later, for UNICEF work that had nothing to do with fame, or box office, or studio approval, she came back entirely on her own terms. She went to Somalia, to Ethiopia, to Sudan. She sat on dirt floors with dying children. She wore simple clothes and no makeup, and she let the cameras capture what they captured without managing the image. because she had learned from watching what happened to women who let the image be managed for them, that the only way to keep yourself is to keep yourself from the beginning, without negotiation. There was a moment, documented in Paramount production records from 1953, when the studio pushed Audrey to change her look. Her eyebrows were too thick, they said, her frame too thin, her features too unconventional for the image they were building. Other actresses had complied with less, changed what was asked, become what the studio needed. Audrey listened, she nodded, and then she did not change, not the eyebrows, not the frame, not a single thing they asked for. She remained stubbornly and completely herself. The people around her were surprised. Audrey was not. She already knew what happened to the women who said yes. Rita Hayworth died in 1987. She was 68 years old. The last years of her life were darkened by Alzheimer's disease. A cruelty that took the clarity she had worked so hard to maintain. The clarity that had let her see, without flinching, what Hollywood had done to her. She spent her final years unable to remember the films, unable to remember Harry Cohn, unable to remember Gilda. Maybe that was mercy. Maybe that was one final theft. Audrey Hepburn died in 1993. She was 63 years old. She died at home in Switzerland, surrounded by family, having spent her final months doing work she believed in. She was not buried in Hollywood. She was buried in a small village cemetery in Tolochenaz, Switzerland. Her grave is simple. Her name, her dates, nothing else. No one put Gilda on her headstone. No one put Holly Golightly. No one put the character the studios built. They put Audrey, the real one, the one who survived. That is the difference between the two women, not talent. They were equally gifted, not beauty. They were differently magnificent. The difference is this: Rita Hayworth arrived in a system that was more powerful than she was, and by the time she understood what it was taking from her, it had already taken most of it. Audrey Hepburn arrived in the same system, heard Rita's story, carried Rita's sentence, and built her defenses early enough to matter. One woman's loss became another woman's armor. That is not a happy ending. It is not a simple lesson. It is just what happened, how knowledge travels, how one woman's pain, if it is named clearly enough, if it is spoken honestly enough, can reach forward through the years and protect someone she never met. Rita Hayworth never found out what she wanted. She said so herself. Hollywood kept her too busy being what it wanted. Audrey Hepburn found out. Not easily, not without cost, but she found out, and the finding was partly made possible by the woman who came before her and named the danger with devastating precision. I never found out what I wanted. 6 words. The most honest sentence in Hollywood history. A warning, a gift. A quiet revolution carried forward by the women who heard it and refused to let it happen to them. Every week, one moment from Audrey Hepburn's life. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.